Hello, Christian.
How are you?
It's always so good to see you.
You look fabulous.
Well, thank you.
Did you make this?
I did.
It's so great.
You know, part of my SHEIN collection.
It's so cute.
I was coming to see you, so I thought I needed to be cute.
Be cute. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know,
Yeah.
fit in with all these fabulous outfits.
You look exactly like you're in the collection.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I knew that. It was the spirit.
The spirit.
Well, let's get started. Let's have a great conversation. Let's talk about all the good stuff.
Yeah.
For those watching who might not know your story, let's start from the beginning. When did you realize that fashion was your calling?
Oh my gosh. You know, I was pretty young. You know, I remember my sister was a ballet dancer and I would be backstage with her, you know, watching the, you know, in costumes and hair and makeup, and they would be getting ready for a performance. And I would be like, wow, I love this transformation. Like, I love seeing these beautiful women like in their warm-ups, and men, you know, in tights and sweatshirts, and then all of a sudden they would strip down into these like sugar plum fairy costumes. And I just thought that was so magical. It was almost like a dream. Like, I'd never seen anything like that before. So I think that was like my first idea of like, oh, I want to create something that really like transforms you. I just love that feeling, you know? You know, like when you put someone in a dress or whatever and they feel so good and they become a different person, that's kind of my favorite moment. Yeah.
Oh, I love that too. I love the whole idea of like when someone puts on something and they feel so confident and warm.
Yeah.
It's like, I did that. I was able to help them with that.
Yeah. And I think growing up, like I would see that so much. Like even if my sister was kind of my muse, my mom was kind of my muse early on, I would see them getting dressed up to like go to work or go out. And I'd be like, you're gonna wear that? Like just out? Like to dinner? And I'd be so inspired. I'd be like, oh my God, how fabulous. Maybe you should throw on a hat or whatever.
Yes.
So we had fun with it, I think, you know, early on in my life.
So it's been like with you, like you were literally born to do this.
I don't know. I think like at first I was maybe more of a theater kid. Like I loved, you know, the theater world. But I think I was more interested in the behind the scenes of it, you know, the creation. So I think that's why I love fashion. I love the creative process, and you kind of can come up with your own story. I really love a story.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were rejected from FIT. Like, how dare they?
It's my favorite story I love to tell. No, it's so funny because I remember I was, you know, I just had moved to New York, and I did this summer program at FIT. It was my junior year of high school or something. I don't even remember. And I loved it. I loved the school. I loved the vibe. I loved New York. I was like this little kid from Maryland who kind of knew nothing, but I pretended like I knew everything. Don't worry. You know, just to fit in. And so I knew that's where I wanted to go. So I really didn't even apply anywhere else. So I applied for FIT, had done so well, you know, with their summer program. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I didn't get in. I was really, really hard on myself. And at first I was like, you know, really angry and really upset and very just frustrated with life. I felt like I wasn't good enough, or you know, this maybe wasn't for me. So I think we all have those doubts. I know a lot of young designers have those doubts. I don't know, a lot of big designers that have those doubts. But that kind of fueled me. I felt like that kind of rejection. I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. What can I do that's bigger and better? And that's why I decided to move to Europe, to move to London, and was probably the best decision I ever made. Because I really got to experience such a different world. And I'd never even been to Europe. I didn't even have a passport. So I just went for it. It's
interesting how like a no that you wanted to be a yes makes it an even better yes in a different direction.
It does, yeah. Yeah. But you have to you got to go for it. I mean, it's definitely a risk. I take a lot of risks. I think risks are really important in life. Even if they don't pan out, I think you have to do it and at least try. And I've always felt that way. Even now, like when I make a collection, I'm like, people could hate this, but I don't know. I really want to try.
I understand that totally. Creating clothes, and it's like, are they gonna like it? Are they gonna like it? Are they gonna like it? Please like it.
You never know.
You don't. But then I'm like, my attitude is always, do I feel good about it?
Yeah.
And if I ultimately feel good about it, I'm putting it out there.
Yeah. I think that's really important. I think if you love it and if it's your passion, then you got to do it. And there's always the next, you know?
And you know your customer.
Yeah, of course.
So you seem to never, ever fail them.
Yeah, I try not to.
Yeah. Well, if not, then you know what to do next and just edit it.
I know. My favorite part about FIT, which is so funny that you brought it up, was like, I didn't get in, I didn't go there, but I've had pieces in their museum now multiple times. I've been asked to give their graduation commencement speech multiple times. So it kind of all goes full circle,
Talk about
right?
a 360 moment.
Right.
Like,
yeah. So I think now they kind of know who I am, which is good.
there was a song that says, back then they didn't want me, now I'm hot, they all on me.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I feel like Rihanna. I don't know if that's Rihanna's song. No, I don't know.
So it's this guy, I don't know, I forget his name, but it's the best sentence ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's move along. How did you overcome rejections early in your career, and what advice would you give to young designers currently going through the same thing? Sometimes you may want to give up, sometimes you can't, but it's kind of like when you know in your heart who you're supposed to be or the path that you're supposed to go on, like how do you stay there? Like what keeps you going?
Yeah. I mean, I think early on in my career, definitely rejection was really hard. I took it really personally.
Yeah.
I would really beat myself up about it. Whether it was a review or an actress or someone who didn't wear something on the right carpet that we made or whatever it was. But now I kind of like, all these years later, I think rejection is actually so important because it kind of is just the fuel. It's the fuel to the fire. You kind of need it. Nothing ever is perfect. It will never go perfectly. It's not possible. You can have some big wins, but then the next day you can have a major rejection that can bring you right back to reality. And but you have to like keep going on with your day. I mean, that's I think what's very important about fashion. It's always changing. It's always evolving. There's not as many rules as before, which we love. We can do our own things. Totally. So I think rejection doesn't like feel the same as it used to. I don't know. If somebody hates a dress, I'm kind of like, all right, well, maybe somebody else will like it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the great thing about it. It's like, you don't want too many wins and you don't want too many people saying, okay, great job, great job, great job, great job. Because then it's like, well, what can I, right. But also then like, what can I improve on or what can I do differently?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that balancing act. And then like, when you get like those people be like, you suck. Then it's like, okay, humbling moment, you know, like, okay.
Yeah. No, it's good to have those humbling moments though too. But I think as long as you get some really good wins, I remember the first dress we made for Michelle Obama. Nobody loved that dress. Nobody bought that dress during market. Like it was a beautiful dress.
Yeah.
But I don't think they saw it as such a silhouette that celebrated women in the body. And then when Michelle wore it, obviously everybody wanted it, and we didn't give it to anybody because I was like, no, that's her dress. So it felt really good to be like, no. That's hers.
How does it feel to say, you know what, I am designing for Michelle Obama? Like, that's like...
My first moments were really amazing because we dressed her a few times, and every time was just for something, whether she was hosting a dinner. I think we did one. We actually dressed her, she went to a funeral, which was kind of interesting, but she still looked great. And then dressing her for the DNC, I think was probably such a magical moment because I think it meant a lot. When she gave her speech, when they go low, we go high. It was such a powerful moment, I think, just for the world. Even if you don't believe in politics, that's just a world statement that I think we should live by because there's a lot of hate in the world. So I think that felt really good that I was dressing a woman who was, I think, giving so much to our world, It was so impactful and very important. And I think, and also Michelle, is a really tall, beautiful woman who has a body. And I think dressing her, I think it showed people like she can look great in clothes and so can you, so can anybody, right?
Michelle got body.
Right, she does.
Like body.
She does. Her arms, she's amazing. Yeah.
So for a young designer who is like, you know what, I've tried everything that I can. Fashion is just not doing what I wanted to do. What would you tell them in a moment of just saying, I'm ready to just like throw all my machines and thread in the trash, I'm done?
Yeah, I know. I mean, this idea of like rejection or you're not there yet or it's not happening. I mean, I do think about it. I talk to a lot of young designers all the time and I say, well, you really have to think up when you wake up every single day, and if this is what you breathe and eat and want to be, and it's your obsession. I mean, fashion, this business is really hard. You have to be obsessed with it, right?
Yeah.
Or it's not going to happen. That's actually the truth, right? But if you are that way and you're getting rejected and you're not having moments, you just can't give up because you do need those rejections to fuel, to push, to keep going. I mean, sometimes it's just about making clothes. Keep making clothes. They get better and better. And I promise that as they grow, something will happen. It's just inevitable. It's kind of how we work in our world. It may not be the exact thing that you want right away, but it's all building things to something greater, I think. And I think it's like, don't put so much pressure. I think a lot of young designers put a lot of pressure that you have to be something so quickly. It can take time. It took me a lot of time to like build my business and really make sure that like I was somewhat successful. It did. It took me a while to really get it. Really, in the end, I hope that any like young talent, young designer out there, I think it's not about giving up. I think it's about pivoting, figuring out like what really is working and really kind of honing in on that and pushing that forward. I know a lot of young designers that try to do a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you just got to be known for one amazing thing first and then build from that.
I totally agree. I remember there was a time when I had I remember specifically there was a day I had $700 and it was like,
I was there too.
Do I like get the rest of it and like pay the rent lady, or do I take this $700, take a leap of faith and go buy $700 worth of fabric?
Yeah, literally.
Make some clothes.
Try to sell them.
And then that same night, my power went out because I didn't pay my power bill.
Of course. Oh,
so I took $5 more and I went and got an extension cord because there was power on the outside of the building. So that night.
This is like how you're doing it. You didn't give up.
No, that night when everyone was asleep, I took the extension cord and I plugged the sewing machine to the power outside.
Perfect.
And the light from the sewing machine, and I was like kicking out all these dresses.
Amazing.
Life happens, but for me, it was like, I felt in my heart like I was supposed to be a designer.
Yeah.
I felt it, and I felt like I had purpose. And my grandmother used to always say like, being a fashion designer is going to be your ministry one day. You have to keep it going. And I never understood what she meant until now. But I always thought about her and that light at the end of the tunnel. I'm like, I can't give up.
Yeah.
I can't give up. Because I think like most, I wanted to quit a million times.
And now look at all the amazing things you've done.
Right. Last week, I was just like, we did it!
Exactly.
So what were some of your earliest influences?
Oh my gosh. I think, first, growing up, I think my mom and my sister were very inspiring. Even though I grew up in like a little town in Annapolis, Maryland, where like, you go boating on the weekends and go to the beach. But my sister was really eccentric and would wear the most insane things to school, like hats and platform shoes and like feather boas. Like she was so weird. Now she's like a mom and dresses not as cute. But no, I'm just kidding. Don't yell at me, Shannon.
Right.
No, but she's so great. And but she was so cool. And I think she just like had a lot of style. So she definitely like inspired me. I was like, wow, I don't know what I want to do with this, but I loved watching her. And then I think as I grew and learned a bit more, I was just really curious about the world of fashion, anything, like whatever was happening, whether it was a new photographer or a new model coming out, or, I'd buy every single magazine I possibly could get my hands on. I was really into that. And I would just kind of absorb. And I'm still kind of like that. I'm a pretty open-minded designer. I'm kind of down for anything. That's why I've done so many collaborations and projects and things like this. And, because it keeps me kind of excited. Yeah. Because the business is hard. Yeah. So some days I don't want to just like deal with like money. I want to like talk about something more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm from Virginia, and like in my town, it wasn't like New York. It wasn't like fashion all over the place. Same. So my mom would give me money and I would get all the fashion magazines. Yeah. And I would cut them all out. At one point, my entire room from ceiling to floor was nothing but cutouts from like Vogue and everything all over the room. And I would just stare at them. I kind of like saw like many fashion shows in my head as I would sleep. And I'm like, I think this is gonna be my thing.
Yeah. I loved watching like fashion TV. I used to be really into that, and I was obsessed with that. And yeah, I think like growing up, it's like you kind of submerge yourself in whatever you can get, right? Yeah. It's like whatever I could find. I started working at a hair salon when I was really young. I was 14, and all of the girls that worked there like dressed so crazy. Yeah. And at the time, like I thought it was crazy. Now I'm like, oh my God, I love the clothes. Right. But they'd be wearing like these eccentric looks and be like, who are these people? They're like creatures from another world. So I loved that. So you have to submerge yourself in worlds that you think will be inspiring. I think that's really important.
I totally agree. All I had was the fashion magazines, and I literally, like I would even like look at the pages and I would be like, like as if I was like eating and digesting the fashion off of the pages. It was great.
I love that.
Okay, so what advice would you give young designers who are currently, not wanting to take the traditional route and go into fashion college? What would you say to them? Because I know tons of people who are like self-taught, or some who are self-taught are some of the most fabulous designers that I know.
Yeah.
But then some of them feel like, okay, I didn't go to, a traditional fashion school, and like feel a little bit intimidated. So the ones who don't want to take out that loan, you're not like my loan, because I'm still paying my loan. But what would you tell them, like what route to go?
I think it is so important that if you have a creative mind, if this is what you want to do, it doesn't matter. It really, really doesn't. We all come from different places. We all come from different backgrounds. I don't think that it's as important. I think the craft is important. So I do think it's important to know how to make clothes, to really design them. So whether you get that from the internet, whether you get that from school, wherever you get that from, I do think that's very important. Like knowing the construction of a garment. If you don't know how it works or how a sleeve goes into the arm of a jacket, then how do you do it? So I think that that's super important. But otherwise, I want you to come from anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I mean, YouTube University is the thing,
YouTube University for sure.
It's the thing.
Yeah. I love to like look up things still, and I'll be like, oh, I wonder like how we should do this, or how maybe we should try a new technique, or we obviously there's the traditions, but a lot of young designers are coming up with such interesting new techniques on how to make clothes. It's very inspiring.
Same. I watch so many different. You ever go down those rabbit holes of like looking at something on like Instagram or like YouTube, and it's like one video of clothes?
I can't do it.
Really?
No,
I
because you get
hours,
exactly.
Hours, but I'm like staring at this lady like doing this like hand beating, and she's doing it for like 5 hours.
Yes.
And I'm just like with my popcorn, like, wow.
I know.
Like I'm
every now
intrigued.
and then I'll be like, I'll get a little into that, and then I have to shut my phone off because then I'm like, I feel like I'll be doing this for like 10 hours.
Yeah.
I know it's hard.
I watched an Italian man make shoes for 3 hours on YouTube. It was the most fascinating thing I've ever seen.
I actually believe that. I believe it. Yeah.
It was beautiful. I'm just
love it.
That's how they do in Oxford. Okay.
Yeah. I have seen it, so it is really interesting.
Yes. Well, I'm going to tell you the story about how me and this lovely, lovely, lovely designer met each other. It was a bit of a stalking situation, but it was really on him.
Oh, right.
I was just like, if you want us to work together, okay, you don't have to like be at my house. You don't have to like blow up my Instagram.
I showed up every day for like a week.
But really, I don't think that you know like how much I admired you from afar from many, many years ago. And I think starting from your time at Project Runway was when I first found out who you were.
When we were babies.
Yeah, and I think like most, I watched every single season, and I'm just like, kind of dope.
Yeah.
And
you had your own challenge, really. So I was kind of coming in as your own kind of a little baby mentor to help, right? The SHEIN X Design Challenge, that was called?
Yep.
Yeah. So I feel like when I heard about that, and I was like, oh, this will be so fun.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a lot of work for you.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to lend a helping hand. But I think you did good.
Well, thank you.
Look at us, now we're here sitting together.
I know, and now we're best friends.
Yeah. I didn't respond last week to your text message, but I will tomorrow. I promise.
Right.
Just you got to keep going.
Don't do me like that.
I won't.
Because I'll be like, what you doing? Like, and then like you hurt my feelings, and like you don't reply. I'm doing all right.
I know, I'm on it. It's okay. I don't reply to half the people in my life.
Okay, cool. I'll take it personal. My mama feels the same way. She was like, I'm just checking on you, girl. You don't respond to my messages, so I understand. So,
or you'll just get the FaceTime from your mom. I get a FaceTime from my mom if
yeah.
I don't answer like in 5 minutes.
Oh, my mama will put out an APB, honey. She will call the mayor. Can you please go find my child?
Exactly.
She don't mess around. She would be so excited to know that I'm sitting here. I didn't even tell her I'm in New York.
Okay, good. We'll take a picture and send it to her.
Okay, great.
We'll FaceTime her.
So speaking of Project Runway, so many would think that that was like your breakthrough moment. That's when you got started. But let everyone know, like, how did it really happen? Was Project Runway your breakthrough moment, or what's the story?
I think it's really important for everyone to kind of find their path, but it's very hard to plan, right? Okay. So sometimes things just happen, and I think what was great about Runway was it was such just a almost kind of a mistake in a way. I had lived in London because that's where I was going to school, and I was working for McQueen at the time, which was amazing. And I remember my visa was expired, so I had to move back to New York. And I got this job at Marc Jacobs, and I was like living in New York, and I was living in this tiny little apartment. And a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you should audition for this show, Project Runway." And I was like, "Oh, what is that?" Never heard of it, because I had lived in Europe for 4 years. So people think that this was like a planned thing. I did not know what that show was. It was so it was only season 3, so this was going to be season 4, and so it was all very new. And I was like, wait. Okay, this sounds really cool. Like, let me try. Let me just audition. I'm young. They probably won't take me anyway. Give it a whirl. Because I was really the youngest contestant ever at that time. Because I was only 20 years old when I auditioned for the show. Anyway, cut to a long story. It was great, after being on, winning, having
wait, let's say that one more time. You were
winning,
the winner
winning,
of season 4.
Winning, being young. Being young, I think, was the most important thing. I was 21. What do I have to lose, right? I had literally nothing to lose. So I just went in it as, which I think a lot of people, and I hope a lot of young designers take any challenge or any project, what do you really have to lose in the beginning, right? In the beginning of your career, this is the time that you take risks and try things and go for it. So I was like, I could be on a television show about making clothes, and I could win money. Of course I'm gonna try. So that's what I did, and it was great. And I do think it was such a great launching for mostly customers. Like the industry wasn't really focused on. I was focused on getting people to buy clothes. And that's all I cared about. I wanted women to buy clothes. So that's what I did. Right away. I had a collection right after. I showed at Fashion Week, I think 4 months later. And I kept doing it season after season, 4 times a year. I never stopped. I never missed one season in my 15 years of career. So,
honey,
I know.
You tired.
I'm tired. I am. And this season coming up is going to be my 15th anniversary. And I'm like, I feel like it's my 40th.
Oh my God, what are you going to do for the 15-year anniversary of Christian Siriano, the famous designer?
I know. We'll see what happens. Oh, Lord. Who knows? But it'll be beautiful.
What a milestone.
Yeah. So, but I think what's great is like with Runway, I took that, I had a moment, it was great. And then it's about how you build afterward, right? Any designer, whatever you do a competition, you do one of these, there's so many amazing competitions out there for young designers right now. Even if you don't win, you just have to take that and figure out how that fuels the next part of the business.
Right. Well, honey, okay, so you know that I had my little 5 minutes on project myself.
Oh, you did.
And my story
I think I
wasn't
didn't
exactly
know that at first.
Yeah, well, it was a very interesting moment in life where I had moved back home to Virginia with my mama because I was like the brokest designer ever in Atlanta. And I gotta go back home. And like, nobody wants to, like in the middle of your adult life, nobody wants to move back home with your mama. It's like,
I know, it's hard.
The epic failure, right? Yeah. And I'm at home in my mom's kitchen making like prom dresses for like the local girls. And something just said, apply for Project Runway. And I'm like, no, not me. I've seen it. It doesn't make any sense. You can't make clothes that fast. Like, this is insane. I'm literally in my mom's kitchen talking to myself like this.
I know.
And so I applied. I took too long. It was like, I think it had to be like turned in at midnight. It's 1:30. I'm like putting in like Mickey Mouse photos just to get through all the red marks so I can finish this application. Be like, well,
it's a lot.
It's over with. The very next morning, I got a phone call and they were like, we want you. And I'm like, why? I didn't get it whatsoever. So anyway, fast forward, ended up being on there. It was the most crazy, exciting, devastating, terrifying, happy.
Every emotion possible.
Yeah. Yes. I really thought I was losing it. I'm just like,
you do.
The emotional roller coaster was out of control.
Yeah.
Would you say like that was like the moment that like took your career to the next level? Or would you be like, oh, I was doing this thing big time way before?
It's just different. I think everything is, like I said, like an opportunity,
Yeah.
And you just have to, I had no idea what Runway would be at all in any way. And I think afterward, I had no idea what would happen. I had no idea that every famous person in the world would want to wear my clothes. I had no idea that was going to happen. Yeah. I had no business. I had no studio. I had nothing. Yeah. So I really had to start completely from scratch very quickly. And again, like I had no money. I remember I begged and begged for my check from winning the show, and I couldn't get it. And I sold the car to get the money. I mean, listen, I needed it.
Right.
I lived in a walk up in the Lower East Side,
Yeah.
and it was not cute. I slept in the closet. But I think like I knew I had a very small window
Yeah.
to kind of build, and then you leave that behind and then you move forward. So I think that's kind of what I did, and I hope a lot of brands and young designers kind of do that. I think
Yeah.
it's so important to like have a great experience, but afterward, like you really have to go. You
Yeah.
cannot stop, and I have to be annoying about it. You really do.
You got to take that small window
Yeah,
and maximize
'cause
on
it's
it.
small.
Because like you, I had no clue what to do. I didn't know
Which
what
is
life would be
frustrating.
like afterwards.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because you have no idea. Like you have no idea what will happen, right?
Yeah.
And I think any designer that's ever been on any competition show or any competition anywhere,
Yeah.
you have no idea what will happen. So don't put yourself in this place that this has to be a cookie cutter way. That's just not possible. It's not happening. You never know who will call. You never know. Oprah might call the next week. You never know.
Oprah call you?
She did, yeah. Yeah.
So you famous.
Well, duh.
Oh my God. Oh, what did you say?
I don't remember. I think I said I was a little busy.
You told Oprah you were
But I
busy?
didn't mean to, because at the time, like I was making so many things for people. It was really funny. And I like loved Oprah, but like, I don't know. No, I did it. I did the dress. Yeah.
Oprah, he didn't mean it.
No, I didn't mean it. No, I would do anything for her.
Wow.
And I've done so many things for her over the years now, you
Yeah.
know? But at the time, I was having like so many different types of actresses and musicians and people asking me to do tour clothes or red
Yeah.
carpet. And I was very overwhelmed. And I
Yeah.
also really wanted people to be able to buy the clothes, but I didn't sell anywhere. But Saks was like my first retailer. I mean, it went really crazy. But because that was after my first show, it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with runway. It was after they showed up to my first runway show
Right.
and actually liked the clothes.
Right.
The clothes are the most important thing. If the clothes aren't good, no one cares about anything.
Facts.
It's true.
Facts. So how did Christian Siriano, the brand, come to be, and what would you consider your brand DNA?
I think I started focusing on like what was really working for us pretty early on, which was more evening, evening, red carpet, cocktail, fantasy world of that. So that was working for us. We were making money, we were selling to all different types of people all over the world.
Yeah.
So I just kept that going. And then I started like venturing into other worlds, suiting and great, day dresses. And I did a bunch of collaborations with bigger brands. I started working with Payless. I worked with them for almost 10 years. We were doing
wow.
handbags and shoes for $30, right? So I really had this kind of high-low world. And that's kind of how I built the brand. And I still have that to today. I think today now, like we have a very high-end designer collection, but I also do collections that are accessible and wearable and that people can buy them. I'm really proud of it.
Now that's what you call balance.
Yeah, it's balance. Not everybody can have a very expensive dress, and I know that. So I have to be smart about the world. I like the idea that lots of different types of people can have these clothes.
I love that, because then everyone can feel great. And going back to what
Yeah.
you said, like a good garment can really change an attitude.
It does. It's like so important. Even when I'm in my store at a trunk show, it's so wonderful to see women or men or whoever you are, like it can change their life. Oh my God, I feel so confident about myself. I want to go to work and do better. Or, oh, I'm so excited. I didn't want to go to my best friend's wedding because I didn't feel good, but now I feel great.
Yeah.
Those are the things. That's why we still do this.
Yes.
Otherwise, it is bills, boxes, and shipping, and I'm not interested in that.
In building that brand DNA, like how can young designers take that and say, okay, this is the way I want to navigate being a my designer? And what would you say in creating that brand DNA, ways to not get stuck in that, how to be a good designer, but saying, okay, I tried this, I tried that, this is my thing now, in creating that brand DNA?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to have somewhat of a brand DNA. You want people to think like, oh, this is a Siriano or this is whatever you are.
Yeah.
I think it is, always challenging. And I think what you do is you focus on what you're really great at. And I think in the beginning, I was really great at evening wear. That's what I loved. I loved to make a great, beautiful cocktail dress, and I loved to make a gown.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was what was making us money, really.
Yeah.
The separates, the day wear wasn't making money. Evening wear was. So I just made a really important focus on that. And and trust me, not everybody wanted it. People were like, oh, you're only an evening wear designer. All you make is gowns. That's all you can do. You'll get that too.
Yeah.
But as long as you have that and you keep it going, that becomes your brand, your world. Then you can venture out into all the other elements of dressing, right? Make a great suit, make a great pair of pants. But I think early on, it's important to figure out like what you're so great at. I don't know, if you're so great at denim or so great at sportswear, then make it perfection, right? Make it the best it can be. Then you're able to really develop something else. So I think that that's kind of how I've started, and I still do. I mean, my evening wear is still what funds the majority of my business. But I do love making other things. Of course I do.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to have something. But I still love doing it. I love a fabulous dress.
I do too. I love your fabulous dresses.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you teach me to make a fabulous dress?
Yes, of course. Yeah, anytime.
Okay, moving on. So in creating this fabulous brand that you have, like what steps did you take to like create like who that customer was and creating that customer base? Because I know sometimes that can be really, really hard at first in trying to figure out who is my customer.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I actually had no idea what people would want from me. I really didn't. I was not sure because I just couldn't figure it out right away.
Yeah.
But I noticed really quickly after maybe my first collection, my first Fashion Week show, most people were interested in seeing the evening wear, like buyers, editors, stylists, other designers. They were like, wow, your gowns are so great. And I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, I kind of just did those for fun. They were like my fantasy pieces, which is really interesting. So that was my first season. I quickly pivoted to basically making majority of my collections a little bit more evening every season going forward. And I'm glad I did that because I knew right away that that's like what people were interested in because I got the feedback. Nobody really cared about anything else actually.
Yeah.
They really cared about like what's behind me right now.
Yeah.
That's what they cared about. And it was interesting because I didn't really want to make gowns. Gowns are expensive. They're a lot of work.
Yeah.
I wasn't really set up to make big, huge ball gowns.
Yeah.
I just turned into loving it, and I think it was working. So I think I definitely had to pivot a little bit because I wasn't really ready for it. But I think also it's very important too to like sometimes be open-minded. I think I was. I'm sure you are too. Like if you get a customer or a client that really wants something from you, maybe it's not exactly what you do, you start to pivot a little bit and you learn to love it though, Even bridal, I wasn't dying to be a bridal designer. I really wasn't. But so many people come to me for bridal. Now I love it. I love what we do.
Yeah.
We make such amazing bridal moments for all types of people, men, women, non-binary. Like we've done black wedding, we've done it all. Ombre, pink, and it's so much fun.
Ooh, an ombre wedding dress?
Yeah, we've done so many.
So now I have a question though, because so when you got into a space of okay, everyone knows you for your fabulous dresses, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever felt pretty much stuck, and wanted to pivot and do other types of collections and stuff? Did you feel like no one would accept those things?
Every day, all the time. I still sometimes think about it. I hate when someone will say oh, I don't think Christian has anything for me. And I'm like, no, I do. And I think what is important for you or anyone, any young designer to do is to make it really fabulous and just put it in people's face, right?
Yeah.
So I just started making really, really cool suits and putting them on as many people as possible. And now people ask for suits almost every single day. So it's great. You never know. And now actually sometimes when I'm doing a red carpet fitting with an actress or musician or whoever it is, sometimes they actually just ask for suits now. They don't even ask for gowns anymore. So then I'm kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And I got really, really good at making a suit for a curvy woman, like a plus woman, with shape. And that is and if you can do that, any young designer out there, let me tell you, It's a big market because it's really hard to find a great suit that fits the bust, that fits the hip, that looks cool, great fabric. If you can figure that out, you've got to win.
So what would you say is the moment of failure that was like the turning point for you, that you thought that this was going to be like the ending for me?
Oh my God, one moment of failure? I have failures every single day. I'm probably gonna go back in my studio right now and see a failure and be annoyed. No, you have them all the time. I remember though, probably one of my biggest ones was, when you start to develop and you have a bigger team, you delegate, right? So you're kind of in the hands of your employees or other people that are working for you, designers and creators. And I remember we were doing production of something, and I think one of the designers ended up ordering like 10,000 dresses instead of 1,000 dresses. So I think we ended up with 10,000 dresses that we had to pay for and couldn't afford. I think some of them are still in my storage unit. But yeah, and that was a huge mistake and a really, 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 really expensive one that probably almost put us out of business that year. And it was really hard. And I remember I did not fire him. He stayed. It was an honest mistake. It's a click of a button, right? And, but there was no follow-up. There was no things, we just had nothing. And we were learning. We were naive. We didn't know. This was early on. But it almost kind of killed it. And, but what I did, I probably sold that dress. It was one particular dress at every sample sale for like 5 years after that.
To get rid of them all.
To get rid of them all. And I still didn't. I kind of moved on after a while. I was like, all right, I don't need the money anymore, but I really, I want to get rid of these dresses.
Right. I mean, you got to milk it for every coin.
Yeah. It was a big, big mistake. And there's going to be those. And I think you have to figure out how to navigate, how to figure it out. I think I was even on a payment plan with the factory, which is really important. If you can't always afford to work with your factories right away, like payment plans, they will do it. Like you have to try, you beg them, you plead, please, I will be able, once my clothes sell, like you said, once they sell, you can then pay your factories, right? And that's an important part of the business. You still have to make sure that you're in with the people that you love and care about that you're working with, right? We're all important. It's a team.
Yeah, I do that with my fabric suppliers. I'm like, I got you, I promise.
It's a team.
I'm like, please help me out.
And I think if you inspire them, they'll be inspired, and and hopefully everybody feels confident.
Man, that's a big one though.
That's a big one.
Like Devil Wears Prada.
And I've got way worse than that, but that's like my PC one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think I would have died.
I've had insane things happen, but you know what? If I didn't, I don't think that I would like still be doing this, because the business is too hard. So you have to kind of like, you take it, you move on, you try to. I think my collection that next season was a little smaller.
Okay, understood. Understandably.
Yeah.
So from the beginning of your career, you've had like the most amazing, powerful, and influential women wearing your pieces. Like, what does that feel like? And how do you think it came to be that they wanted to wear your clothes? I
think that a lot of, kind of influential women have come to me to wear my clothes is because I think I'm a very open designer. I'm really curious. I'm really about supporting people who are doing great things in the world. That's how I want to dress. So I think that's even why Michelle Obama picked some of my pieces early on. I was a young American designer dressing, all these wonderful curvy Black women. And I think she felt like she could also wear me, which was really great. And I hope that's why she chose me in a way. And and I think that goes for a lot of different people. And that's what's really important. Like, I think if you can show the world that you are open-minded to dressing all walks of life, then the doors open. They really, really do, because you never know who's a customer. You don't.
True. That is so true. I think that's part of like testing that water to find like what your DNA is, right?
Yeah.
And playing in different spaces, because like you never know that one thing that will stick, or just opening it up, or kind of like how so many brands are having so many different sizes.
Yeah.
And now they have a new customer because that one person's like, okay, now I can see myself
in
one of those pieces. Yeah. So that is very important.
And it's the same with opportunities. You know, maybe one small opportunity might seem small,
Yeah.
but you never will know what it could turn into. Maybe one deal is not that much money, but maybe next year, the year after, it could turn into something so much bigger. Same with actresses, musicians. You know, I remember I was the first person to ever dress Lady Gaga ever for her first TV appearance because nobody knew who she was.
Humble brag.
Right? Humble brag, but it is. But like nobody knew who Gaga was and nobody would dress her. So I was like, well, I'll dress her. She's so cool. I think she's a weirdo. And she is.
I love weirdos.
And now obviously the most famous woman in the world, right? So I've had a lot of those. You know, I was the first person to actually make clothes for, oh my God, a lot. Lizzo, I was her first fashion show. Nobody was dressing Lizzo.
Yeah.
Like Cardi B, I dressed her for her first red carpet. Like
Still bragging.
You know, still bragging because I remember my publicist was like, you can't dress her, Zendaya, she's a Nickelodeon star, she'll never be anything. This was a publicist I don't work with anymore.
Okay.
But I was like, no, I really love Zendaya. Like, I think she's really kind of amazing and I love her. Law Roach, his first client was Zen. Nobody was sending clothes for her. I was like, well, I love her. I want to send clothes for her. She's stunning. Who cares? I love a Nickelodeon show.
Right.
Or wherever she was on, Disney, whatever she on. And but anyway, it turns into bigger picture things, right?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes you can't always say no in the beginning of your career because you never know what it'll turn into. You just don't.
And I know you would have been like looking at some of these people now like, man, I should have took that chance.
Yeah, that's why I don't say no. That's why early on, I'll get an email right now. Oh, she's a new actress and she's gonna be big. And sometimes you have to take that with a grain of salt and be like, okay, is that really true?
Right.
Is it gonna happen? Sometimes we take the risks. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. So you kind of have to figure that out on your own.
Right.
Nobody
Or you just kind of do what feels right.
Yeah, no one can teach you that. Like you do what feels right.
Yeah. I love that. You work with all the greats.
All the greats. I've done them all. They're all crazy and fabulous in the best way.
I mean, but would you like them if they weren't a little bit crazy?
No, they have to be like a little bit wild because then it like just makes the fittings more fun.
I can only imagine what a fitting with Lizzo was like.
Yeah. Oh, the best. She's so great.
So you dressed Billy Porter in some very fabulous looks.
Yes.
And you talk about like, you know, what is it like to do a fitting with some other people? What is that like? Like, what is a day Billy Porter's coming in, he's about to like, you know, put some fabulous clothes on. Like, what? I'm a fly on the wall. What I'm looking at?
I think what's great about Billy is that he really wants to be his authentic self, and I think he really inspires a lot of people to be that. You know, young men, women, non-conforming people, just wear what you want to wear, right? There are no rules in clothes. Like, if you want to wear this dress, you should wear this dress. I don't really care who you are. And Billy's really like that. I think that's what happened at the Oscars. You know, when he came into my studio and was like, I want to wear a gown at the Oscars, and it's gonna be a moment. And I was like, okay, let me think about this. First man at the Oscars wearing a gown. What's gonna happen? Well, whatever, I don't have time, so let's just do it. But I think us making it a little bit more something that was classic and elegant and, you know, this tuxedo gown kind of vibe, made it still traditional enough, but still daring enough. And I think that changed so much about the world. I think men, little boys were like watching Billy on the red carpet being like, oh, I can wear that. I can be something else. So I think clothes have so much power, whether we like it or not. They just really do.
Because it goes back again to that feel-good moment.
Yeah, it does. It does. And he felt amazing and worked it. And oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was the most Googled image that year, which was insane. The dress has now been in like 6 different museums. It's all over the world. It's really cool because I think it really changed like a cultural shift of dressing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing. And we both took risks. We could have got murdered. Oh my God, everyone could have hated it.
It was good,
but it worked. And some people did hate it, but most people loved it.
I think the majority loved it.
Yeah.
I was one of those people.
Yeah, it was cool.
And I'm just looking at like his facial expressions. I'm always looking at like the pictures when he's like in all these fabulous looks. I'm just like, he's definitely changing a whole lot of things for a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm loving every moment
the
of
best.
it. How important would you say it is to have, for a young brand, to have an A-list celebrity or someone just awesome that everyone knows to wear one of their pieces on a red carpet? Would it break their career? Would it help their career? Like, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah. You know, it's frustrating because some days I think like, oh my gosh, celebrity dressing, it's really hard.
Okay.
It's a lot of work. And it sucks that it is so important some days because you're like, oh. But I think that one great moment, like you said, it just opens other doors. So I don't think you should ever make it your main focus in the world, because I think you put too much pressure on yourself that way. It doesn't always happen sometimes. But I think if you have that great moment and are able to get to one, you can get to the next and the next and the next. And it is a trickle effect.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen overnight. It takes time. I've had a lot of failures in it. Like, I have made dresses for so many people that have never been worn. And I've made a lot of dresses for a lot of people that have been worn, you know? So I think that's important for any young designer to understand. But getting that one great red carpet moment is honestly just for yourself too.
Yeah.
It will feel good for you. And I think once you're confident, you're able to push yourself into doing more and more and more, and it's a building effect.
What do you think is like necessary though? Like, can you be like a super dope, fabulous designer and never dressed anyone on an A-list?
It's definitely hard to navigate fashion in a level that you're going to compete with bigger brands without having some type of red carpet exposure. Now, that red carpet exposure could be for the cool indie actress that's in this random little weird movie, and that's the world you go in. It could be for a cool guy that you just make suits for and like he's fly and you love him. It could be for a comedian that you do her stage or his stage. Like, there's different levels of what you feel is, I think, success. So obviously, like, if you're going for J-Lo and Nicole Kidman the first week out, it's a little hard. I'll tell you, because Dior and Gucci and Louis Vuitton are all also fighting for them.
Right.
So it's really hard. But let me tell you, when you get them or get someone in your clothes, think about that.
Yeah.
Think about, wow, I kind of like beat out Dior this week. You know, they wore my clothes instead of that. And then that's when it feels really good.
I've also noticed too that there are a lot of like super famous people who are intentionally, you know, seeking out the small brands.
Yeah, there are. That's what's even greater. You know, you remember like a lot of, you know, musicians, actresses, a lot of musicians, they want to be cool. What's next? What's happening, right? And they don't want to look the same. They want to wear something different. They don't want to compete either. It's the same. Everybody's pulling the same clothes.
Right.
So I think that's, but I don't know. I think that's very important for a lot of young brands. Feel confident about their work.
Yeah.
Because you never know who's going to call. You don't.
So because we're in such a social media world right now, everything is high technology, digital platforms, even with fashion, like, would you say that traditional fashion shows are still the way to go? Like, would you tell another young designer, hey, I know that we're in a modern technology right now, but I still need you to get on that catwalk and put that show out there?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what's great about fashion. It's always changing, always evolving, as we all know. The digital world, I think, is great. I think it's super important to have.
Yeah.
I think connecting on social with fans and customers is, you know, so important. You can't do it without it anymore.
Yeah.
I do still think that there is an importance to Fashion Week and the element of showcase. So I think, you know, designers now, I think presenting their collections, it really is an artistic form of like showing your world, your art, what you put your soul into. It's almost like asking an actress not to be in a movie or asking a Broadway dancer to not be on stage. I really take Fashion Week or presenting a collection on a runway as kind of like my stage for my performance, which I love. But not everybody loves it, but I love it. So I would still do it.
So you're never ever giving up, you know?
You know what? I think when I hang up the Fashion Week or the showing of even if it's not during Fashion Week, the showing of the clothes, I think will probably be the day I retire.
No, you can't have that.
Yeah, I don't think I want to do it without it because it's kind of my favorite part.
Right.
I love the transformation. I love the artistry of it. Yeah, you know, I love bringing the fantasy world for people to see because I'm a showman. That's what I love. And I don't think every young designer needs to do a show. I don't. But I do think every young designer needs to do some type of interesting, creative presentation of their clothes.
Yeah.
Whether it's an art film, whether it is a really cool digital photo shoot, whether it's something totally random outside the box, fashion on the streets, whatever it is. I do think, and not just photos, I do think it needs to be something that's visual, that moves, because clothes move.
Yeah.
They need to move. That's kind of the point of them. We live our life in clothes. I don't care if you film a bunch of people going and sitting down at dinner, and that's cool in what they're wearing. But any young designer, I think, has to have some type of representation of how their clothes move and live and breathe.
I personally think that a good fashion show will never die.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when it comes down to like social media and like the whole digital platform, they look nice. Like we can see like so many different like AI inspired things, or like just technology in general. When we see like the digital like cool 3D fashion shows and that sort of thing, but it's a whole nother feeling when people are like sitting there and they can see, or they can feel the wind go by from that gown just sweeping past them. The emotion, I feel like, is different. I think they receive it a little bit better.
I think it's why us as just people, as humans, as young, the young generation, why do we go to concerts? Why do we go see your favorite musician? Why do we go to see shows? Why do we, why do we still love the red carpet? It's all of those things.
The emotion.
The emotion, we have to have it.
Emotion sells clothes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It does. I'm forever a fan of a good show.
Yeah, me too.
It's cool to watch it online, but like to be in person,
it's nice.
It's different.
Yeah.
So for a small brand like myself, what tips do you have for me to navigate the space of big box retail and wanted to get into that space?
I mean, I think that's exactly what it is. I think I want to see every single piece that you make and whatever you do to present it, it's got to be on all your different shapes and sizes that you're doing. I mean, and I think it's super important that if you are doing curvy women, it is curvy women that are gonna feel celebrated, and the clothes have to be special, unique. It can't be, it can't be just another brand doing plus clothes, right? You gotta be like the brand doing the most fabulous plus clothes, right? So I think that's very important for any brand. You have to figure out right away, like, how do I make this really special? How do I make this unique? And then you'll kind of come up with something that you feel like is different. I don't know. I've never really seen a runway show with a lot of all curvy, great women. I've never seen a really cool presentation in that way. I think that would be really special. So I think that's what you should do.
That just, I don't know. I just got so excited just thinking about like a whole bunch of 14s and 16s like stomping down the runway.
Great. It'd be great. Do it.
I just got a feeling. I'm sorry, I got a feeling.
Do it.
Okay, so the last question. So for a lot of small brands, like getting into big box retail and just getting into any stores at all, whether it be the big box or like a small boutique, a lot of designers are wanting to get into retail stores. What is the advice that you would give them to get their brands in those stores?
I think it's probably the biggest challenge in our business is how to get into retail, right? Or how to navigate the retail world. Because it's hard. It's really, really hard. I found out kind of early on when I started getting into retailers and I'd put so much pressure on myself. Oh, I have to be in this store. I have to be in this store. I started realizing that actually it's not as important as it used to be. I really feel very strongly about a direct-to-consumer business that you control. If you have that and can build that, then you're ready to go into retail. I actually think it's better to go to a buyer, to go to any email that you're sending to a buyer. I don't want to hear, oh, it's my first season, I have no sales, but I would love to be in your store. I wouldn't want your collection either. So I want to hear from a young brand, hey, I've been selling direct to consumer online or in pop-ups around whatever you're doing, and we have 100% sell through. We are selling to all these customers. Here who our customers are. I think your store would really benefit from my brand and what I'm doing. And look at our sales. That's when the emails, that's when they open them. That's when the retailers are being like, oh, wow, I want a brand that already has a little bit of a business going. And you can do that without anything. No money, no headache. Like, get a website up, get it online, get it on social, get a place that you can have a customer shopping. It's so much easier. I love now that. Because now buyers come to us now. And I mean, I used to struggle for years and now they come to me and I'm like, no, sorry, we don't really sell to stores anymore. And they hate it. It's so fun.
Oh, wow. Well, give them my email.
I will. I'll send it along.
I love that because you always want to like create that momentum for yourself. Like no one wants to like, woe is me email.
And it was so fun. The woe is me email is hard, and it's okay. You can send those every now and then. Like it's still humbling and important, right? Every now and then I still do. I'll be like, hey, I would love to work with you. And they might not write back, and that's okay. You move on.
I love that. Well, you know what? I mean, we could talk all day.
All day. This was great.
All day long.
Thank you for coming to my
and
studio.
I cannot thank you enough for allowing us to come into your space and have this
Anytime.
conversation.
Anytime.
And when I text you, you got to text me back.
Yeah, you text me. I'll text you back. Let me know.
And you got to help me make that dress too.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I'm on it. Thank you.